Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Succession Season 4, Episode 2, Rehearsal. Before I jump into my review, please make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit that 30K so I can get a Rotten Tomatoes approval. I really appreciate your support, and I'm grateful for your support in general. Plus, you don't want to miss when my new Succession reviews come out. I'm also reviewing Yellow Jackets at the moment. So I'm going to break my review into 3 parts. We'll start with everything going on with Logan, Tom, and ATN. And then we will go to everything going on with the siblings and just finish off with the final act of the show when they merge storylines here. So where the premiere started, where we were 48 hours to the Gojo acquisition, we are now 24 hours to the Gojo acquisition. And we're already seeing Logan screwing with the kids here, where he says to Kerry right at the top of the episode, axe that chopper, they can walk. I was kind of waiting for Logan to do something like this, and it's good to see him staying true to his character and messing with them. I also like what they're doing with Greg a lot in this episode and getting his storyline more interesting. And I love when he calls Tom to tell him that Logan is at ATN and says he's wearing sunglasses inside, like if Santa Claus was a hitman. I thought that was a great line. But you see, Tom explains to Greg that once this deal goes through, everything settles down. Logan is going to be at ATN all the time. We see in Logan's speech to the team at ATN how passionate he is about ATN. So he's also constantly reminding people in this episode that he is not gone. He is not dead here because he's selling Waystar. He is still around, and that's why he's annoyed at Jerry in this episode. He even says at the end of the episode he doesn't want Jerry at the meeting with Matsson. Like, he thinks she is too much of an opportunist. But I also love this humorous storyline going on, and it's an important storyline going on going forward for Kerry's relationship with Logan, but this Kerry tape of her being an anchor, and then everybody's laughing at it who's watching it. But you see that Logan is giving Tom and Sid this wink wink to have Kerry get a job as an anchor. He can't directly say that because that looks bad because it's his assistant, but he's making like, oh, if Tom and Sid, it's their idea, then it makes sense, it works. But he can already read a little bit through Tom at the beginning that he's not crazy about how good Kerry is. And Logan needs to know from people how Kerry is at her job and their opinions he values on this, because he can't just blindly give her the job, because it also makes it look bad on ATN's part if she's terrible. That's just too much of a risk. And it looks bad on Logan's part. But I love they show that Hugo is dying at the audition on the tape right before Logan comes in, and that Logan asks him, like, what were you laughing at? And the best humorous part is he has to open his laptop again, and you see Kerry real quick. So Logan puts it together, and that's why he goes back to Tom and asks him if Kerry is the finished article. And Tom starts giving a little more truth here this time, is like, no, and she needs some work. And it could be damaging to put talent out so early. And it would be setting Kerry up to fail as well. But Logan gives Tom the look like, take care of it. I don't want it happening now. But he's like, I'm not involved. I'm nowhere near this. I know nothing. And of course, Tom then throws this responsibility onto Greg and says, you want next level tasks, right? And Greg is a great line. He's like, yeah, but not telling our boss's girlfriend she can't be on TV. And I love that Tom mentions, though, to Greg, make sure Logan is out of it and that I'm out of it, covering himself as well. And I like they're putting Greg in more fresh, interesting situations. And this scene is so awkward. And Kerry's reading right through Greg, because she's like, so Tom doesn't think I'm ready, and he's sending you. And the worst thing Greg did was mention this focus group idea that Tom actually had. It was a bad thing to even say that, because she can look into that. But I love the line he says that the arms aren't right, Greg. So Greg is just saying too much here. I was dying at that line. And she's like, who's in this focus group? You? Tom? Logan? And she says, if this focus group isn't real, I'm going to take you apart like a human string cheese. Poor Greg. But Greg takes like, it's a win, he did the job, but that does not look good for Greg. And if she finds out there's no focus group, she can tell Logan this, and Logan's going to be pissed this wasn't done clean. So it's not good for Tom either, because he did give the assignment for Tom to take care of it. And I was saying in my premiere review that everything's kind of, for me, starting to see the downward trend for Tom here. And I think that's going to continue with the big reveal about Roman, which we'll get to. But this also adds to that as well, that I think he, again, messed up here, even having Greg do this. Now, the sibling story is very interesting here, and how quickly things have blown up for them being a team. So that was short-lived, and that they also have their own agendas here. They all have secrets they're not telling each other. And a big part of this episode is Connor, and that he texts them at the start of the day, have you left yet, for his rehearsal dinner. So you remember during all this chaos with Matsson and Gojo that it happens to be that Connor's having his rehearsal dinner and his wedding the next day, this big day of selling the company. I do think that's a little contrived, though. I will say that that's all happening on the same time, and that I guess it's just terrible luck for Connor. that it happens to be the same day this is all happening. But see, Shiv gets really angry because she finds out that Tom clearly got a tip from Logan to first get in touch with the divorce attorney so it could be a conflict if Shiv reaches out. So she calls Tom pissed, calls him a bitch boy, and she says to him to tell her dad to F off, and says it like her dad. But this also gets anger in Shiv now and sets motion to want to really screw Logan over more. So she thinks about calling Sandi here. And she thinks this is a win too, because if she goes with a Sandi play with Sandi and Stewy to make Logan have to ask for more money for Matsson, she'll have more money now for PGM. And I love when she calls Sandi. She's like, is this about Connor's wedding? I'm sorry I can't make it. She's like, oh, no. I mean, the likable thing about Roman is he does actually care about Connor's feelings and making sure they're there for him. And Shiv and Kendall could care less. And really, Shiv, cold with it. Multiple times in the episode here, and also when they get to the rehearsal dinner, she even suggested not even go up to Connor, and there's more important things to be handled. But what I'm talking about, where you see that very rare likable thing about Roman, again, is that he actually does know that if they don't get on that helicopter, which they've been blocked on, and that's why he's extra pissed, it's more too about the guilt trip he's going to have from Connor. But you see, this is what I'm talking about, where they all have their shady things they're doing on the side and not telling each other, these siblings. This is where it doesn't work for the three of them, is that they're not honest with each other, and they have all their different wants and needs and plays here. Because Shiv acts like she's getting this text out of nowhere from Sandi and Stewy. That's how she presents it to Kendall and Roman. Not that she was the one who first made this move today. But Shiv has not the best instinct with things like this, and that at the end of the day, Roman, Logan, they know deep down how Matsson is and that he is gonna reject this. This is a bad idea. This doesn't mean more money. And Kendall will actually get this confirmed, which we're gonna get to. I do want to say, though, one of the things I'm not crazy about the show Succession is I feel like they did a better job in season 1 about involving other partners they work with, where I feel like sometimes they have this crutch where they just mention again Sandi and Stewy, and they appear for like 2 seconds and do something, but I don't feel like they're characters anymore. I feel like they're just plot devices, so it's a little gripe I have, and that happens here. They kind of pull out people when they need to, like Pierce last episode. At least we got a lot of time with Pierce, but with Sandi and Stewy, I feel like they've just become this name that pushes the plot forward, which I don't think is the best. Another thing, too, that annoys me about Succession that happens this episode, too, is things move really fast, and that is how it is in this type of world, but we didn't even get a moment to just enjoy the siblings working together. It, like, flips, like, instantly. Succession has done that its past couple seasons where things get dropped so fast, then restarted, then dropped again, like even everything that went on with Kendall and Shiv putting public that letter about him, and then it's just like forgotten about. Same thing with him voting the president, a whole episode dedicated to that, just forgotten about. That's just a whole for the show that I have a gripe about, and I still think it has some guilty moments of that. They just start things and drop things really quick. So when they get to the rehearsal for the wedding, they catch Willa leaving, and this is where we'll see Connor say, Willa stood up to do her speech and said, I can't do this. And Connor is really upset, and he wants to just do karaoke at a real bar with regular people. But when they get to this bar, this is where a really important moment happens, where Kendall gets this call from Matsson. But Matsson says to him, back off or I'm going to can the deal if I'm pushed again. Kendall, I believe, can tell he is not bluffing. The vibes I got, he is not bluffing at all here, that he will just drop this. But see, Kendall then asks for the comparables from Stewy here in a text. So I believe Kendall, with this information, knowing that this will blow up in his dad's face if they do this, he likes that because Kendall wants to screw his dad over. But I also think Kendall believes, seeing that comparable list, that he is going to go back now to Matsson and make his own kind of deal in Kendall's interest with Matsson and work with him. So I think that's an opportunity now for Kendall, and this is his side of not telling his siblings that big information, that he talked to Matsson, that Matsson is clearly not going to bite at this. And when I'm talking about all these siblings having their own little moves, the big reveal at the end of the episode is that Roman this whole time too, we know he's always tempted to go back with the dad, and that by the end of the episode, he does. And that's going to really screw the siblings over big time, because he's not going to vote with them on the board. So that's going to stop that too. So Kendall thinks he's winning. Shiv thinks she's winning. Roman thinks he's winning. So that is fascinating that they all have their own little plays here. Now, one of the great hysterical Rome lines in this episode was when Shiv's asking to see his phone when the dad's texting him, but he's like, show me your phone. World's biggest group of WhatsApp people sharing pictures of your snatch. I thought that was an all-timer for Roman there. So what sets this big final scene in motion is that Connor actually tells Logan, of course, and he probably smartly should have, that the other siblings are planning to can this deal. Connor wants the money, right? He's got his wedding tomorrow. He doesn't want any more of this. But Connor finally gets to take them to karaoke. I love him singing a Leonard Cohen song. It was hysterical, and Roman was like, this is Guantanamo level shit. Loved it. But Connor's really hurting here too because Willa is just gone dark on him, and Logan shows up and he's like, Matsson is not going to offer more, which he's definitely right on that, like Roman has been saying, and that really Kendall knows from Matsson himself. But Shiv is just not catching on to this. Her instinct is off here. She's saying she has a good instinct on this, but she just doesn't. And he's like, I do ATN, you do PGM, fresh start for all of us. Just vote yes. And he gives the worst sorry ever. And you see Kendall's like, no, what are you sorry for? Ignoring Connor, hitting Roman. But you see those lines that are little are very important. Like Roman saying, I was annoying, everyone hit me. Like, he justifies a lot of his dad's behavior. He is still always gonna fall for his dad, even when he had abused him. And it all ends with Logan calling them dopes and that they're not serious figures. I love you, but you're not serious people. This is classic Logan just being super cold here. But he's gonna now panic because this might blow up in his face, and he wants to meet with Matsson ASAP. But again, with the big reveal at the end, doesn't want Jerry to come because he's getting vibes that she's too opportunistic with Matsson. And his big play here is he's going to have Roman with him. That's the game changer. And there was hints right at this last moment of Roman leaving too, because Shiv and Kendall are talking about how good it felt screwing dad there in that moment at the karaoke, but Roman's, you can see he's just not about it. And Connor drops the mood fast. Like, the good thing about having a family that doesn't love you is you learn to live without it. You're all needy love sponges. If Willa doesn't come back, that's fine, because I don't need love. It's like a superpower. This is just super, super sad to watch. It's another very sad moment to kind of end the episode like they did last week. And it's his wedding tomorrow, you know? It's just awful luck while all this is going on. And it's just highlighting how the siblings will value the business side of things over Connor. And then it really is put onto Roman because, like I'd said, yeah, a likable thing about Roman is he does care about feelings a little more of his siblings than maybe the others do, and especially with Connor here in this case. But he's having that tested already because when the dad asks him to go for Matsson the next day, he knows it's Connor's wedding, but clearly he's got to go with his dad, right? He's going to still choose the business first. So it's going to be interesting what happens at Connor's wedding and with Connor while all this craziness is going on. And I like the end of the episode where Kendall thinks this is all going to blow up in everyone's face here, and that he's going to make his next move, and that Shiv is thinking of calling Tom, and that Connor comes home and is relieved because Willa is there. And with Rome, well, Rome comes back to dad. And important you see how he shoos Tom out when Roman comes in, because he tells him he's firing Sid and he's reinventing ATN and he needs a fire breather, a ruthless F who will do whatever it takes, talking about Roman. And he's like, you really want me at ATN? He's like, more Roman, more than that. I need you. So this is huge. Having Roman there, it really fits too. And it's, to me, just going to push Tom out more and more. And you know Rome doesn't even like Tom. And at the end of the day, Logan's always going to pick family first because Tom's not really family to him, especially if he's getting divorced from Shiv. And to me, it just clearly means they're not going to have Rome's vote on this, so it's going to be just see what happens here. But I do think the deal will go through. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Kendall does some trickery. Maybe Stewy with Shiv and Sandi do something. We'll see. But let me know your theories on that. What's going to actually happen next episode with this vote? Or does Roman bluff with his dad here? Let's see all the angles here, what you guys think, if he sticks with the siblings. So I thought this was a very strong episode again. I'm going to give this one a 9. I didn't like it as much as a premiere, but very close. Still thought it was very interesting. And things are in general very interesting in the show, what's going on, which I like. It's still way more engaging than the last 2 seasons to me. But I still think this episode fell back to, like, okay, it reminded me that some parts of the show, just the one thing that drives me nuts is how quickly things sometimes move and don't get to enjoy things, and they drop things so fast in the show, and I felt like they still kind of did that a little bit here. I still think there's right directions it's going in doing that, but I do think, again, the pace sometimes with how things flip so quickly and how they just bring in Stewy when it's needed, or Pierce. It's one of those things about the show I'm just not crazy about. But overall, solid episode. And I'm excited to see where this goes next. So I'm giving this one a 9. Let me know what you thought down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment. I try to respond to as many as I can. Please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.